are you going to actually, like, you come down to the same old problems that you're good at solving, which is trust and consensus. Like, how do you actually create trust and consensus amid a myriad of sensors, thousands and thousands of different vehicle and sensor technologies? And that was ultimately like kind of the root of where we felt like Dimo needed to start.
Internet Explorers.
We're just live. Let's go.
We're live.
Right.
Let's do it.
We don't need no intro today. What's an intro that somebody spent a lot of time putting together? What up, Nicholas? We're back. Episode 43. 43
wow.
of Internet Explorers. 40. It's almost literally a year of weekly. God, that means it's coming the end of the year soon.
Flies.
I mean, summer's over soon.
2025.
What are we gonna do?
Pumpkin spice.
We'll give people a few seconds to come join us. Excited to have you here early. If you're hanging out with us over on Twitter, come join us on live.seedclub.xyz. That's where the chat is most active. If you're over on LinkedIn, God rest your soul. I hope you're okay. If you need help, come hang out at live.seedclub.xyz. We got a great show for you today. We're joined we're going to talk Dimo with the co-founder of Dimo, which I have so many questions about. It's like one of those projects that I've heard a lot about, hasn't captured my interest, and so I haven't gone deep down the rabbit hole, but we're up to some really interesting things. And there's a bunch of stuff in the news around connected devices and cars right now too, so it sounds like a very interesting category. We're back into corporate chains. Somehow Coinbase launching a chain means that other corporations, we should be excited about other corporations launching. I don't know. I've got opinions on this. It should be interesting to see. I'm very curious your thoughts, Nicholas, as we get into it.
Yeah.
Base names. People are minting names. Our friends over at Sofamon. This one was really fun, actually. I think Jackie was like, yeah, you got to look at this. And we kind of looked at it. And then I missed one feature that is like the biggest feature and has resulted in a whole lot of new people coming in and using these things that are not even crypto people. So excited to talk about that. Talk partydao. I love that you sent that link of Kai discovering polymarket. Yeah.
Hilarious moment.
Very hilarious moment. Story. A lot of drama on the timeline this week.
Yeah.
And we're not even covering it all. So it's going to be fun.
Definitely.
Networks. All right, it's good. So, anyways, how you doing, Nicholas? You're
I'm doing
back
great
for another guest host, baby.
Yeah, excited to be back in a different slot visually. Replacing Josh this week. Yeah, excited to talk about everything that's been going on.
Yes, sir. All righty. Do we have anything? I mean, I guess half of crypto is going to be at Burning Man next week, so we all get to bask in. I was trying to think of, like, is the timeline going to be better or worse that everybody's in crypto? I think it's just going to be more degenerate because I think that's the part that's going to go to Burning Man. I don't know. We'll see. Should be interesting.
Have you ever been to Burning Man?
Never been to Burning Man. If
I would love to go sometime.
I think I would really enjoy it, but the whole getting there, getting ready, like this whole that is like the least appealing thing to me ever. So I just need to, like, I don't know. And it feels wrong just to like pay and go glam it up, quite frankly. So
gotta do it properly.
Yeah, I think so.
Authentically.
But we know people are going. It's gonna be fun. We'll see. Alrighty, well, let's kick this off. Again, if you're hanging out with us on Twitter, live.seedclub.xyz is the place for the chat. And let's bring Alex up here as a co-founder of Dimo and figure out what's going on in Dimo land. What up, Alex?
What's up?
This is such a New York office view. Am I correct here?
Yeah, 100%.
Let's go. And is that a slow, quiet ticking from the thermos, the radiators behind you, or are you beyond that?
Well, they're not on right now, but
fair.
I'm gonna melt here in the winter or get a different seat.
All right, man. Well, I mean, I think personally, Dimo's one of these projects, companies, brands that I've heard a ton about, but I'm also like not deep in that world. Nicholas may have a bit of a different level of understanding here. But why don't you give us the high level first, just to frame it? What are you guys after there? And I'm specifically interested in the insight that kind of is fueling your mission.
Yeah. So connected cars. It's not something most of us have thought a whole lot about. They're a relatively new concept. If you got a new car anytime in the last few years, you probably got an app for your car. It probably wasn't very interesting. you probably don't use it very much. But at the same time, cars are some of the most complex machines that most people own. They use a ton of connectivity and bandwidth. And what Dimo believes is that really we're in the kind of the flip phone era of connected cars, which is you can get a connected car, you can get a little data from it, you can do the OnStar thing, maybe you can lock and unlock your car, but like we really haven't entered the interesting phase of what's going to make connected cars awesome. So what we believe is the first thing you need to do is open up those cars to more developers. The same way that phones got really fun, modern phones got really fun when we had an app store. Connected cars are going to get really fun when you can actually control the experience that you're having. So our mission at Dimo is to actually make cars programmable and really just to revolutionize the mobility stack so that any developer in the world can build AI products for vehicles, can build connected services, can build really creative ways to explore the world and do road trips and things like that. In addition to kind of the basics, how do you manage your maintenance and track your insurance and things like that.
On the website, you mention that car data is valuable and that users can initially earn by sharing some of that data. What makes that data available? Who's willing to pay for it? How does that all work?
Yeah. So one of the things when we were starting Dimo and we really started from the perspective of like, wow, if you could aggregate all this car data, that would be really interesting. There have been a few companies that tried that model. They had varying degrees of success. It's a really complex problem. In the mobile phone world, you've got Apple and Android. There's really two big players. But when it comes to cars as devices, the biggest automakers, Toyota, they have less than 15% of the market. There's a huge, the auto market is dozens of, automakers, and it's a very long tail industry. So our initial idea was, what if we aggregated all this data? You could start to build really interesting, data sets and analyses off of that. But early on, what we quickly learned is that the auto industry is much more interested in individual data. If you go to, let's just say, a used car marketplace like Carvana, and you say, hey, Carvana, do you want to buy data from 100,000 cars or 1 million cars? They say, yeah, this is kind of interesting. We'll use that. We'll plug it into the model, make it a little smarter. But if you say, hey, Carvana, this person wants to sell you their car, and they have, like I do, 2 years of data of history of how you drove and where you drove and the maintenance you did and the health of your car, Carvana says, wow, we really want that data, because that's a discrete pricing decision that they can make on that specific car that could be thousands of dollars in one direction or the other. And one of my co-founders was at Vroom for a number of years. This happens all the time. They're overpaying or underpaying by thousands of dollars on a vehicle because they don't have accurate data. So really any company in the auto space, thousands and thousands of companies want this data. So what happens for a user experience is, you sign up to Dimo, guess what? You get to earn Dimo tokens. This is our thank you for coming. Like, you've joined the network early, you're an early adopter, you're going to be here, you're going to receive tokens every single week. But as you actually use our partners, and we have partners for maintenance and vehicle sales and insurance and many others, as you use those partners, you can actually earn more, because those partners are going to start to pay for your data in order to provide you a service. So if you book maintenance through Dimo, you might share your error codes ahead of time. And then the partner for having your business doing business with you will give you rewards. So our model is very much that we enable users to own their data and actually take it with them as they manage their car, as they explore cool new products, and really become better car owners.
Is there any advantage for the car owner themselves aside from the data and the remuneration? Can I benefit from having this thing plugged in myself directly?
Totally. So we show you a bunch of the data right off the bat. Like, I can see where my car is parked in Williamsburg. I can see the fuel level. I can see my tire pressure. We plug in other APIs. Like, we, show you the value of your car, actually show you the price on Carvana. We'll show you if there's recalls. We're plugging in a bunch of stuff that makes you a better car owner. And then, of course, from our app, you can go and connect to some of the services that I mentioned. So, today that's maintenance services, a lot of the boring kind of car ownery stuff. But we're working with 3 AI companies right now that are building various tools for vehicle data, like an AI car mechanic. So, if you want an AI car mechanic to be smart about your vehicle, it needs to not only have a really good model that it's trained on, but it needs access to your vehicle data. And so we enable you to actually be in control of that, which you can't do in the Ford app or Audi app or Tesla app. You can go then and share your data with, let's say, this car mechanic AI or an insurance AI and get a customized product.
I love that. I'm like, how do I go use this? Because I think one of like the most annoying things is not being a technical human being and something happened and then being like, all right, I guess I got to go pay a couple grand for somebody to tell me something and maybe I don't even trust, sort of thing. I've run into a little snag here though. My snag is my 1994 Ford F-150 in mint condition. It's a little too old for you, isn't it? It's probably too old for most things, but it's perfect for me.
They started really to standardize the CAN bus, which is the communication network within the car, in 1996. That was like the first level. That's when the OBD2 standard came out. So I actually don't even know, like you might have a earlier OBD.
It is. Yeah. It's actually very hard to even get any readings off of.
Yeah. So look, I think that cool old cars will never go away. And one of the, like, I'm also on the market for an older pickup truck. And like the best thing you can do in so many ways, even environmentally, is like keep your old car running. But connected cars, like every car, I mean, is going to be connected.
There's been a bunch in the news recently too. I'm actually curious of your take from, and I think a lot of it's coming down to the U.S.-China trade war, whatever. And I think my understanding is that there's sort of a embargo or limitation on connected devices, specifically in cars from China, and that's all cars connected from China. And so to me, there's sort of like this realization that sensor machines driving through cities of a foreign adversary, a perceived adversary, is actually probably not a good thing. It's going to have a pretty big impact. In fact, I think there's a bunch of trade issues that are coming up over the next year or so that could have a pretty big impact. Does that affect you at all? Or are you guys aware of that?
It presents, I think, a pretty interesting opportunity. So I'll give you like the 30-second overview of like auto market in China. China did not make cars, decades ago, and they invited the US automakers to come make cars in China. They said, hey, you want to sell to 1 billion people? Like, we have one condition, which is you build your factories here. And China has done what they are very good at, which is look at your factory and then go replicate it. And now they make cars in China at a quarter or a half the price of what we can make them for here. And we're seeing that now where in Latin America, Chinese vehicles, and Asia, of course, Chinese vehicles, like they are starting to dominate market share because they can make great cars for cheaper. And so my personal philosophy is cars are probably going to end up looking like our phones, which is they get made in China, the software gets made here. And so, what we see as an opportunity, and we've always wanted Dimo to be kind of like the neutral app layer and infrastructure layer for the auto industry. Like when you have all of these different automakers, especially as you start to layer in autonomy and like whose car and whose sensors are detecting what, and okay, now the cars have to talk to a city, and you go to a different city and the sensors are made by a different company. How are you going to actually, like, you come down to the same old problems good at solving, which is trust and consensus. Like, how do you actually create trust and consensus amid a myriad of sensors, thousands and thousands of different vehicle and sensor technologies? And that was ultimately like kind of the root of where we felt like Dimo needed to start. How that is going to play out in the next few months between, or next couple of years between China and the US, I think there'll be some compromise where like China gets to make their cars and some software company or set of companies emerge. And like, we very much see Dimo as playing a role in that based on our ability to deliver infrastructure, to deliver things like privacy to the connected car stack, and to deliver something like user control and permissions over their data.
Yeah, interesting. Super interesting. The other thing that I'm super curious about, I mean, you guys are in market, in a big market with a token, and you're talking to consumers who I'm assuming most don't even know what a token is. And actually, maybe I should step back. Is that true? Are you going to people, like, are your customers people who know tokens? Is there a wider market out there?
They are, yeah, we will. I mean, we started in very much marketing to crypto, and you can go to our website. There's still a lot of very crypto-centric language around it.
Dimo rewards, though, not token. I think
Dimo rewards, so you're seeing like there's things there that we hint towards like the future of that. Like, we want the Dimo rewards to feel like an airline reward point for your car. And we feel like the average consumer would be like, oh yeah, cool, that makes sense. That doesn't exist yet. Like, why not? The average person spends about $8,000 on their car every single year between fuel and other things like that. And there's, credit cards and things like that. But we think it's the kind of thing that would be pretty appealing to consumers. Honestly, like, it really hasn't been possible to hide the wires entirely until this year, I feel like. And we're right now in the midst of a huge upgrade to our mobile app and to the stack in general, where we're working with Turnkey and Zero Dev to build like that wires hidden experience, with the goal of, probably in 2025, really turning from just crypto kind of focused users to going more mainstream.
I'm curious when you talk about Dimo, do you consider Dimo a company or a network or a platform?
We're a network. So there's the Dimo Foundation, which of course issues the token, and then I work for Digital Infrastructure Inc., which are our Labs Corp.
I'm curious about the sort of framing of like airline points don't go up and down, and they're also not trying to represent the value of a network. And I think pretty clearly from the launch and the structure here, like there's like an alignment between the earning and sort of like the mutual value that we all create together by coming into this network and using it. So is your sort of framing this as a rewards point or loyalty point, an insight from consumer adoption, or because it feels like you're sort of, at least in my reading, giving up on it, which is actually the value here, which is sort of the cumulative data, aggregated data, usership, et cetera. As that grows, I can make an assumption of our cumulative value. I don't want your airline points.
Yeah. So there are various, we have a couple of, tokenomic proposals that are out there right now as far as, it is a network value token. So when a developer wants to access Dimo, and we have you can go to console.demo.xyz. When a developer wants to build on Dimo, they are going to need, and of course we're going to kind of do, and I think Helium was one of the first companies that did this, but many others are doing it too. You'll be able to pay with a credit card, and behind the scenes, you're purchasing a Dimo data credit, which is another instrument that we've built. And after the data credit, in order to create those, you are burning some Dimo. So there is going to be a tokenomic component to what the Dimo token does in terms of aligning the network and things like that. To be honest, I don't have an answer yet for like the average consumer doesn't want a reward point that goes up and down, and I think a very small subset of people do. So how do you try to manage both of those like consumer types?
Well, I mean, I think there's only one answer, and that is you have to build something so fucking incredibly awesome that people will want to come here. And I think that's the opportunity that we have as people building consumer products, because I think your offer here is very compelling, right? Like, I mean, I have one car that I think this can get plugged into, so I'm going to be wait, can I do it in Canada, or am I done for in Canada?
Yeah, no, Canada's good.
Let's go. All right, we rock it.
Let's go.
So it's like okay, these things that you can, and I think we'll talk a bit later about polymarket, but those are the moments when you can actually give somebody something to touch and feel, and they go, oh, what? I can't, like, that's not even possible. So I think this sort of like watering down of language around tokens is actually a huge disservice. And I think that if and that's not across, I think that's not across the board, but I think if we're trying to get this aggregated value of data or of attention or belief, I think we got to lean into tokens. But I'll get off my soapbox here. The people here have heard that enough from me here. Nicholas, so
Alex, two questions. One, is CarPlay a problem, or does that not get in the way at all?
It doesn't get in the way right now. So the automakers, very fearful of Apple and Google, Android Auto and CarPlay, have basically they've drawn a very firm box around the infotainment system. So you can go and plug your phone into your infotainment system and have Android Auto or Google or CarPlay. It's not interfacing with the rest of the computer network of the car, with the sensors and the rest of the ECUs that control the actual vehicle operations. Apple and Google really want to get into that business. they would Apple gave up on building their own car. Like, they would love to just get deep into the cars that exist. So, I would bet that there will be some automaker in the next couple of years that turns over the keys to one of the giants that just says, fuck it. Just come and do all the ECUs in our car. And I would see that as happening. But to date, the automakers have kept a very, very firm grip over the actual ECUs in the vehicle. And so far that is, that bodes well for us, because when they have this term in the industry, software defined vehicle, they're basically, defining all the components via software and making it much more composable and customizable. But that's really great for us because, like I said earlier, there's dozens of automakers. And if you're a developer that wants to build an app for any car, you can't go automaker at a time. BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Jeep, you can't do that and build for all those cars. Instead, you can come to Demo and we can make that process really easy for you.
And are we any closer to the vision that I heard back? I mean, must have been 2015. I don't know, early Ethereum days. Talk of a decentralized Uber or cars that own themselves. Are we anywhere closer to this idea? Especially as like Uber drivers, even Uber users are more and more aware of the insane take rate that Uber has over these networks, which they probably don't deserve in a world with decentralized networks.
So I actually think that the biggest problem, the thing that keeps us furthest from that, is not necessarily the tools and technology, but just the fundamental business model. Like Lyft and Uber have not proven out all these decades later to be great businesses. They are still like struggling to keep their margins up, and like Uber's done quite a bit better than Lyft has in the last few years. But like, ride sharing, I mean, the taxi industry, even before Uber and Lyft, was not a really high margin business. There's ways to carve out margin in there. But they're tough businesses to begin with. That's number one. Number two, we really believe that we have some core components of that would make that a lot easier. So, we have a lot of the vehicle identification and verification tools that you would want. Like you probably don't want to get into an Uber that isn't insured. And we have a way for a driver to actually mint an insurance credential that lives on chain that you can see, be like, okay, cool, this car is insured. I can tie the insurance to that. You probably don't want to get in an Uber that has an unhealthy, has a bunch of error codes on it. Like I've been in some scary ones. Like, wouldn't it be great if, a user could prove, hey, my car has no active error codes. Like those are some of the things that I think would even improve like the current models and current systems. We're ourselves not going to figure out like the routing engine and all the kind of complex stuff of running one of those businesses, but we can provide vehicle identity, vehicle data, like all of these other things that are very much components in that. And that would apply to decentralized Uber, decentralized Turo, really any model that like is, in the mobility space there.
There's a YouTube video that was talking about cars that would own themselves and be automatic. And that was the thing that got me interested in DAOs and got me to put money into the DAO. Well, to try to, and I was unable to. And here I am now, all because of that YouTube video, which is kind of crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
You could build some of that with Dimo too, because like we have not all vehicles, but some actually give you the ability to lock and unlock them via the API. So as a user, you create your car on chain. You can actually give out, like I could give you permission to unlock my car and like go get in the car and drive it. Like there's a variety of tools that we've built, and it's very much dependent on the car itself. But like there's a variety of things that we have that kind of take us a step closer there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think Uber is going to prove to be a phenomenal business, but there'll probably only be one. And I think there's the complexity. We need some ZK TLS stuff. We need to be able to like siphon off data from some Web2. So there's stuff coming together that might make it possible. But I think
have you speaking of ZK TLS, have you looked at opacity?
Oh yeah, know them well.
And yeah, you know them well. Cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch out there that are running at that, which I think is interesting. And there's gonna be an unlock from that is going to be very appealing to people. I just don't know exactly what it is yet.
Yeah, I don't, and again, like I don't have the like deep background in that kind of a business. There are so many complexities there, and like a lot of localization makes sense. And you could even argue like Uber had Uber and Lyft both early on did a very smart thing, which is like they set up GMs in each market that they went to and was like, yeah, we're not going to try and run this in a centralized way. Like, so
that's the core issue right there. You don't scale things. You need a team to like the on the ground trench warfare that happened to get Uber to some network density is a thing that I think most people have zero understanding of. So
yeah. And so it's like, oh, they're a big centralized company. Like, no, they did it. Like they went deep local.
All right, Alex, my heavy hitting question here. DePIN. It's cringe, bro. What are we doing with this? Are you the poster boy for DePIN? Are we going to redefine the category?
Dude, you tell me. You're like, look, I'll tell you my honest opinion. I've been conflicted about it for a while now. It's one of those things. It didn't exist 2 years ago when we started Dimo. And now, look, I get invited to speak at every DePIN thing that's out there. So it's great. Like in terms of me getting those soapboxes to go stand on and talk about Dimo, like how can I say no? I think it's just been completely watered down. Like everything that isn't DeFi, GameFi, SocialFi is DePIN, and it's just all lumped together. And you have all these people coming on. Bitcoin was the original DePIN. It's like, okay, so everything is DePIN now. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think that like there's a couple things like that I'm thinking about in terms of that term. One is there's a lot of apps with a token. Like, we are a platform. There are going to be, by the end of the year, probably half a dozen to a dozen Dimo apps, and you'll be able to get onboarded to Dimo without using our app. Like, we're very much a platform, and there's a lot of stuff out there that I see is just app with token. I think like we need to fundamentally separate those things out. Not a bad thing. That's just a different kind of project. I also see like there's a lot of this like super fungible, like all the GPU, CPU aggregating stuff. Interesting, and might be great projects, might be great things, but like very fundamentally different than the like consumer facing DePIN stuff that's happening. So I actually don't really want to speak, like I will speak at all more DePIN things, but like Dimo is a consumer crypto play. And there will be not one, but dozens of consumer crypto apps built on Dimo. And that's where really I want Dimo to be. And it was one of the reasons I was excited to come on here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a similar relationship with consumer crypto as a category. And I think a lot of people, there's the wave of the timeline being, it's such a shitty category. And it is. It's like not useful other than
how do we make these categories
it's not infrastructure. We don't. I don't think it matters ultimately. And I almost half regret asking the question because I'm like, when people ask me that, I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's useful for us to talk about internally, useful to put a category out there. Yes, we get invited to specific things that are more aligned with us, but it's still yet to be defined truly, I think. Alex, wonderful to have you on here with us, man. Excited about the progress. Appreciate you sharing a bit of the insight behind what you're working on. You have anything else out, Nicholas?
What's the coolest app of the ones that are available or coming out soon?
Which one are you excited about? Because I'm sure they're all cool and they're all your babies.
Not to pick your favorites.
Don't want to get you in trouble.
So I saw you, as you were poking around on the stream here. I just connected with the Truworld team. I saw what they were building. This, like go and explore, and you can find quests, and they're building it kind of as like a walk around and explore your city. And that is like one of the main things that we've wanted on Demo from a car perspective. Like, who's going to build to like go take a road trip, go visit all 50 state parks or 50 state capitals and national parks? Like, somebody could build a really cool go explore the world connected car game. And so like that is one of the things, because like there's a lot of energy that's being poured into building the like, I don't know, the boring stuff in the auto industry, insurance and maintenance, and like no one gets really excited about buying insurance for their car, even if it's using cool new private connected vehicle technology like Demo. People are going to get excited about connected cars when you can go and have these like cool virtual experiences and like play games and do quests and like do stuff that is new and novel.
Love it.
Anyway,
appreciate.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's awesome to meet y'all.
Yeah. Same.
Excited to meet you as well. Demo.com, Demo.co.
Demo.co.
Demo.co. I mean, well, let's see. See if I can. I actually can't tell if my car is a 2006 or 2009 right now, Nicholas.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it's a 2006. I have this like penchant for old car. I just like things that feel like metal.
Yeah. So. They've been taking the metal out of cars. That's for sure. I would like, give it a shot. And, if the 2000, like we're going to update the 2008's a rather arbitrary cutoff because it depends on vehicle platform. And some of the, the platforms get updated on certain times. So like we're going to be refining the compatibility matrix a little bit. It's not just going to be a hard year cutoff.
I'll just plug it into somebody's car. I got friends. I'll be like, yo, you got a connected car now. Have fun. Let's go.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right, man. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Later.
Oh, yeah.
Connected car. Yeah, maybe you just hook it up to your friend's car and connect your wallet. Collect their Demo tokens, I should say, on their behalf.
I think that's actually will be like the games could be a really compelling reason for somebody just to go do it. And you think of the social dynamics that can emerge around that. And you bring up that sort of self-driving cars, automated car thing. And you got to squint to see in the future, and maybe it doesn't come true. But if you sort of maybe run back the things that would be required to get there, a lot of these things are being built right now, and
here's hoping.
Here's hoping. Yeah. I mean, Waymo doing 100,000 paid rides a month is, most likely
I still haven't been in
that
one.
we're going to get here. Yeah, I mean, I got invited 2 days after I left San Francisco. So
next time.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. All right. Well, let's move from DePIN to...
we got a lot to get through here.
What do we got?
Sony up
Sony
first. That's it. Sony's got their Sonium network they announced today, I believe, right? This is coming from Sota Watanabe, who's very famous in Japan for having launched Astar Network, and I believe lobbying the Japanese government quite a lot about opening things up relative to blockchains. He's also leading the Sony blockchain or block solutions labs. So he's sort of inside Sony as well. And they're going to be transitioning. I mean, it's sort of there's not too much detail, but one thing mentioned in some of the press is that the Astar ZK EVM that's built on Polygon is also going to be migrating to Optimism. So some alignment modification going on there. I'm a little skeptical, but he's saying in the articles that in 2 years, he anticipates transitioning some Sony properties like their music, pictures, motion pictures, etc., to and also Sony Bank. I don't even know what that is, but maybe in Japan that's more relevant to some of this blockchain tech. So we'll see.
From your Walkman, let's go.
I think my take on this is it's sort of a classic story, but always potentially relevant. Just people, enterprises with enterprise connections getting their hands deeper into blockchains, and this time with a EVM. I mean, maybe Astar previously as well, but EVM aligned is pretty cool, and maybe with connections into the sort of B2B network in that region that just some idealistic EVM folks might not have.
Yeah, I mean, I got thoughts. So I think there's a couple things here. One is that this trend that I think was in large part kicked off by Coinbase with Base of corporations launching chains, right? And I think if you listen to Jesse talk, one of the things he expects and hopes to see is many more of these companies kind of following the footsteps of Base, or at least like they're sort of paving the way for that, which I think is interesting, I guess. I just think that I just don't know how you take this seriously. Like honestly, take it seriously, right? Like we've had corporate blockchains since 2017, and where are they now? I think Coinbase and Base is working because they are very much not showing up like a corporation in crypto, right? And I think if you pull Jesse out of that seat and you try to put Bryan in there or somebody else, good luck to them, because I think it's actually so much of this sort of intangible stuff coming together that creates the trust for builders to come and build in there. I think there is the bull case to look at here, which is like, if we believe that blockchains will be the arbiters of truth and that bringing this, and that all this IP is valuable and will be more valuable if it's on chain. There's a huge portfolio of incredible IP that Sony owns and has, and so. But I think I'm kind of struggling to see like, okay, well, what is the thing they go do in the next year that actually unlocks that value in some way? And so, and then you just look at the language that is in that post, and it feels like a corporate press release with somebody who's, we need to, we're going to first onboard all the Web3 people, and then we're going to go after the rest. I'm like, okay, well, good luck, sir. Good luck. And I'm going to be cautious here, because I think generally my take is let's build more infrastructure. And if corporations are wrapping their head around the stuff, even if it kind of looks janky, perfect, let's go after it. I think I have more of a difficulty with this in L2s, because it just seems so outlandish to me. Like, it just seems so it would be so shocking to me in a year or in 2 years if that blockchain is relevant as a general purpose.
Agreed. I can imagine, two things. One, I think, when a sort of research studio inside of a large corporation does something, it's often precisely because the actual corporation is not going to do anything about it. So keeping it at arm's distance by having this research org, they put $3.5 million into his Singapore-based Startail group that's sort of managing this project. Or in relationship with the Sony internal group. I don't have high expectations, but Sony does have a lot of end user consumer touch points, software, PlayStation, for example, as well as a lot of media opportunities. And you can imagine them not really wanting to run, if they do transition any of those properties or even tentatively experiment, not wanting to do so on a network where they don't control the sequencer, where they're going to have to pay sequencer fees to Coinbase or whomever operates whatever L2 they decide to go on. So I see it probably more as like an organizational thing, where now the blockchain activity inside Sony is probably going to be happening under this umbrella, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think what Base has proven is that if you can get a significant volume of transaction through your sequencer, you can make a ton of money. And so there's a clear business case here. The gap between, I guess, starting and getting people to build on it, and then ultimately interesting enough things that people will want to, do all the things to come and use your chains.
Ecosystem TBD. Yeah.
But I guess a lot of this sort of relies on the optimism worldview, and that like the barriers to transacting across these L2s will be non-existent in some point in time. And so I think that changes it too. And maybe that does unlock it, because at that point, you're right. Like, why would the Sony and Nintendo, the Disney give up what is likely the most compelling business model actually out of their IP, which is creating reasons for people to transact and capturing a base fee from that. We shall see.
We shall see.
The complete opposite side, Base names.
Yes. So Base has this new ENS system on Base chain for sending transactions to people via a pretty cheap ENS address. Prices are between 0.0001 ETH and 0.1 ETH, depending on how long the name is that you pick. People are going in, a lot of squatting going on of well-known social media influencer names, which is unfortunate at times and makes you wonder if there could have been a better rollout to avoid that. Yeah. But in any case, I think it's just a sort of natural step for Coinbase as they move further and further into wallets, smart wallets, etc., to be able to cheaply and easily address people across the whole EVM ecosystem. I
think there's like a powerful product piece here as well, or I guess product that ties into emotion. Uniswap's doing this. I think what we'll see is a lot more people do this, because you create a dynamic where people are like opting in to your world and having an identity in your world. And I think that's actually, if you can cast a big adventure, that's actually like the first point of conversion, really, I think, is are people like, give them a clear path to signal that they're a part of a world. And I think, ENS type domains are brilliant. That's what they've done for ETH. I think that's what they've done in Uniswap, and they've done here on Base. And I think there's probably a broader identity play here that people are going after. We could probably bridge in a lot of the decentralized ID sort of ideas that I think we're floating out in startup land. And I think a lot of them are probably going to come to fruition here in sort of like these more packaged, integrated solutions. And it generates a bunch of revenue. 72,000 names, I think, were minted. So obviously pales in comparison to the revenue they're doing off of their other business, but maybe for a startup or for others, this could be an interesting path as well. So I think these things are getting a lot easier to roll out. I think ENS is actually working on something that makes that even easier. At least that's what I've heard. So I expect we'll see this all over the place. And if you squat on, okay, can you just buy that, Cheryl? So thank you. Yeah.
It's actually funny looking at it to see that they've opted to keep the .eth at the end, which for the typical Coinbase consumer is maybe not particularly pertinent. Obviously, Base is very ETH aligned, but it's interesting that they've decided to preserve that, because it is a little kludgy if you're not deep in the ETH ecosystem.
It's funny too, because like there's we've had a few folks that operate TLDs or domain name services, and one of their main selling points that they're saying is that actually .eth is an Ethiopian TLD. They just haven't claimed it yet, and somehow that's going to ruin everything. But I think what .eth it shows is this idea of being on chain. .sol I think will do the same thing, and these are very different worlds, and so I don't see that as being as big a conflict as the sales pitch that I got indicated. But yeah, cool. I don't think we'll be talking about more of these.
ENS DAO is in conversation with Ethiopia over that domain, or they have been for a year plus. So we'll see what happens with that. But actually, I think one aspect of this that we didn't discuss is from the perspective of ENS, huge win to have really their system being truly adopted by more and more legitimate, large corporate, et cetera, players with tons of reach into consumers. So from the ENS perspective, I think this is really incredibly strong signal for that protocol.
Agreed. All right, let's move on because we have zero time. Sofamon Gotcha Machine.
Yes. So Sofamon has a new feature out. It's only available for 48 hours, which I think is coming to a close pretty soon. It's a partnership with Catizen AI, which is that popular Telegram mini app that people might remember from a month ago's news cycle. It's a play to earn app. They've got cat themed wearables. They're 0.007 ETH for this gotcha mechanic. So you buy an opportunity to get a random cat themed wearable. Fun experience. I played with it. Very easy to use. classic sofamon, and you get to wear them on your characters, which show up in your linked Telegram account sticker section, which is very slick and cool experience. Catizen has like 14 million transactions on Ton chain. I don't think there's anything Ton about this aside from the Catizen tie-up, but pretty cool, fun experience, and a cheap little thing you can try if you want to do something new.
Well, I think if you're building, you got to go click around, because there's all this talk about Telegram, and sofamon has been, I mean, they've been building in Telegram since we started working with them in SEO6, and so deep in that world. I think the one thing to have a look out for is, and I think this could be big, is purchasing with stars, right? So Telegram has this in-app currency essentially that does not require you to have a crypto wallet installed. You can just be using Telegram and purchase stars, and you can then go and actually mint your wearables with stars. And so I'm not sure if I can share the exact number, but many thousands of people have engaged with sofamon that are brand new to crypto, because they do not have a crypto wallet at all associated with their account. It's just purely the Telegram piece here. So it still feels kind of early, but these pieces coming together, and it's almost like an onboarding path in a very indirect way that I think you sort of see some. I mean, you can look over at Farcaster with Warps and seeing something similar like that. So very interesting user experience sort of process there that I think builders would do well to play around with. So shout out to sofamon for continuing to push interesting things forward, and very excited to be working with them.
Definitely.
partydao.
So partydao has an update. Their token product V2 is out. I actually haven't played with this product myself. Have you created or bought a token yet?
Not yet. Not on this one.
So they're basically expanding their token launcher capabilities, or did so this past week. It's like a kind of pump fund style experience, but it lets creators choose the LP crowdfunding threshold, which then will transform it into a Uniswap LP once it's reached. So puts more power in the creators of the token creators. More power in the hands of the token creators, and lets you allocate even a portion of the total raised for future airdrops, for example, and the creator of the token retains the LP fees forever. So interesting product in that genre of products.
Yeah, my takeaway was that they've, just very smartly went in and built a bunch of features that are remixable enough that you can actually feel like you're creating somewhat of a unique offering into the world, which I think has been the big challenge with a lot of these. Huge unlock for pump.fun, obviously, but I think there's a sense that there's more bespoke token models depending on what you're trying to do that would be useful, and I think we've seen that.
One feature you can see right there is the greater than 100 followers on Farcaster only toggle, so tying into Farcaster network a little bit. Social reputation as maybe a limiting factor for getting involved. So interesting experiments going on.
I think we've seen such a wave of meme coin launch pads and prediction markets over the last couple months as sort of that trend has hit. And I think the challenge we often have with that is it's a lot of sort of follow-on innovation, small iterations rather than sort of brand new takes. And I think even though Party's taking a very opinionated product approach over the last little while, so much of the stuff is being built as a network and really trying to be infrastructure ultimately. So it feels like this is just like a very, very, very useful tool to go launch a token, because you have a bunch of options. And I think what's interesting to me is maybe wondering where the social interaction or the context comes from. So in Party, they try to do that with chat. It's a very challenging thing to go do, and so I think this being abstracted away from another app and it's really being used for a very clear job to be done is actually very bullish, because it leaves the social interaction and engagement and stuff to happen where people naturally are right now, whether that's discovery on Deck Screener or that's engagement on Telegram, etc. It feels a lot stronger to me. But I'm also very aware that somebody's going to integrate these things together in a way, kind of like what Pump.fun did for maybe a more broad or approachable audience. And that's probably going to be big, but very hazy how and when that happens. So for now, just very excited that people have more tools to be able to go build good tokens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if anyone in the chat has seen a really kick-ass token made with this thing yet. I'd be curious to see what the most mimetic stuff is.
Yeah. I think it seems like it has been less about launching meme coins and more about bringing groups of people together. Almost, it still feels like that collective buying piece is still very deep in the DNA here, even though that's really not the job to be done that people are going for. But it feels like it's the enabling function of that. Yeah, they continue to ship. Love those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, baby, we're making good time here. This feels good. The momentum.
Look at this.
cenat, Speed, and Beyonce on Polymarket. What a title.
So two headlines here. One, cenat and Speed, two classic Twitch streamers and just general influencers, are speedrunning Minecraft this week or last week, from what I understand. And on stream, they discover that there's a polymarket market around. I think there's a bunch, actually. I think one of them was about how many times they're going to die before they complete the challenge. And they discover it on stream. And it seems to be the first time that they've ever encountered polymarket, which is, I mean, these are two extreme. I don't think there are very many more popular people on the internet right now. So pretty crazy to see them, and also to do it not as a partnership or planned thing, but just as internet users discovering the thing feels like an enormous win for polymarket this week.
And I think why you and I got so excited about that is because that is an example of somebody being delighted about a new thing that couldn't be done before, right? And so
Totally.
it
Surprised?
very much surprise you. So you watch the video, right? Like I mean, why he's so popular is because the emotions on the sleeves would be an understatement, right? And but I think that's what we're going for. Like that moment there is the example that any consumer builder should have in mind. I think, right? It's because, I mean, again, the other thing we see comment. Okay, so what's your go-to-market? Well, KOLs, promotions, and PR. Okay. What's
organic's better?
Well, I mean, it's
this is KOLs, but via an organic demand. I mean, and slow burn of building that product to get to this point. It's not something they launched with. Not intentional.
I think Nick's post from One Confirmation earlier this week, which I think we'll get out in the newsletter, was just talking about, you know, what is it like to be a consumer builder? It's not chasing trends. It's having a vision and building for 5-10 years. Jared's been on the same thing. We were talking about that last week. And I think that's, it's not how most people show up. And I think it's a thing that we've been putting a lot of thought into recently, just especially as we've just seen this wave of very similar type products, and it really forces you to get into some of the details around why is this team and this group to do it. And a big part of it comes down to an insight. And if that insight is, oh, people are generating a ton of fees by minting meme coins, that's far less compelling than, you know, attention is going to be monetized and we're going to build this platform. I don't know, it's kind of a weak example, but yeah,
for sure. And there were tons of other there were tons of other prediction markets that have come and gone, and this one stuck around and has captured the attention finally of the mainstream. So exciting to see on the tail of the Trump stuff. And speaking of Trump, the other news related to polymarket is that there was this rumor. I think TMZ spread a rumor that came from somewhere. It turned out not to be true, but a rumor that Beyonce was going to perform at the DNC. There's polymarket for it. People are chattering about this on Twitter, of course. Now it's confirmed that she's not going to do so.
Some people lost a ton of money there on that.
Yeah, it did seem likely for a minute there. It made sense.
Yeah.
So to me, what's interesting about this story is even pulling back and looking at it as prediction markets, especially when they're popular, being potentially incentivizing rumor mill fabrications. So there's a lot going on, you know?
I think I think prediction markets as like feature a business model, you know, a monetization pathway, super interesting for media generally. I think what it is not good for is predicting the truth. And I think a lot of people really over-index on that. And you know, and it's easy to cherry pick, but if you kind of look at VP race as an example, right? Like there wasn't really insight beforehand there. I mean, I guess there is if you kind of look at it, but I think it is entertaining. And I spent some time yesterday just watching the activity feed of Polymarket, and it's not compelling to me because I go, well, why would I want to go put $50 up to win $56 or what? Like, it's just a lot of people were putting in $10, $20 on things that had like a 96 cent, you know, and still earning 2 pennies on. Like, it feels like there's sort of like being right and participating in this game is actually a very compelling thing for a growing group of people. And I also think it's relevant from this idea of, you know, who do we go serve? Polymarket served a tiny niche, and it was almost irrelevant for a long period of time to the broader world, and has continued to push. You know, they had a very strong opinion on how UX could be improved in crypto generally in their first version. They've continued to push on that, continue to push on liquidity and ensuring that there's deep markets there. And now all of a sudden it's ready for prime time. And I think there's insight there.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting product to continue watching and very inspiring for consumer devs for sure. Next up we have, well, actually, I don't know if we have WTF is Cheryl doing on chain this week. I don't know if Cheryl wants to do it.
Hello.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hey guys. I feel like such a little creep in the background over here. I'm trying to think what'd be cool. Court date. I'm excited for.
Yes.
This would be a good one. I just signed up and earned 500 points because now I'm point farming. But yeah, Slow Rodeo is doing a big activation in New York City, September 6th through 8th around the US US Open Finals, and they are doing a ton of merch. But if you sign up now at court/date.com, you get to farm 500 points just like me, and then you probably will get to go to the activation, which will be on Rivington Street in Lower East Side. So I'll be there, and then also I just downloaded the Chipped mobile app and getting onboarded there through Privy at the moment. But yeah, pretty stoked about that. I need some chip nails, so I'm hoping Winnie will send me some. And
mine shipped this morning, so
really
very excited.
Did you get a full set of nails, or did you just get one for one finger?
Full set, because then I have 5 options basically.
Oh, are you gonna have 5 different calls to action?
I think so. I think I'm just gonna load it up, dude. Yeah.
Newsletter, Internet Explorer.
I think these are both great related stuff. I think there's this like trend bubbling up of full stack brands. I think that's the language these teams are putting forward, and it's thinking about what happens when you integrate sort of like the power of building on chain from a loyalty perspective or an attribution perspective, from an ownership perspective. And sort of create this commerce experience that also brings in sort of a sense of identity and belonging and community. And so you look at Racket Sports, it is like on the biggest come up right now. Somebody's describing the US Open as like a Coachella type of moment. It's like the place you need to go. So great category to go play in there for the Slow Rodeo guys, and really thinking about what happens when you start from a community and a collaboration perspective versus we know what's best and we're going to bring it out. They had a bunch of merch available at our FarCon event, and I bought a bunch. One of them has something about, I think it says swingers, something. It says swingers. It basically infers that I'm looking for casual sex from random people, and me wearing that on the golf course has been one of the most incredible consistent experiences. So,
I actually lost my water bottle yesterday, so if Brian says I need a new water bottle.
That's what it is.
Looking for hot swingers in your area.
I think I told them I'd put that on my truck. That feels like there's just so much context missing from that to be driving down the street. I love it. All right, Cheryl. Well, thanks for hanging out. I hope you survive next week. Cheryl, I got some memes for you, actually, so they'll be coming through later.
I am a meme, so.
Look forward to it. All right, let's jump into Story. Story raises 80 million from A16Z again and again and again.
That's right. Don't fuck with my IP. $80 million, bringing the total raise to 140 million. There's threads from both co-founders and Chris Dixon about the raise. Quite controversial, actually. I'm surprised just how much attention was paid to this. For people who don't know, Story Protocol building on-chain intellectual property protocol, and I believe now they're threatening to do their own L1. It was previously just contracts on Ethereum, I believe. It was Ethereum. It was EVM. I think it was Ethereum. Okay. But in any case, I'm curious what you think about this story.
Well, I mean, I think there's a few things. Like generally, it seemed as pretty weird to have one fund lead all 3 rounds. So obviously it shows that there's a ton of conviction from A16Z in this. I think it is interesting that they're threatening their own L1. I think that makes I think they will do it, and I think it makes a ton of sense from an investor perspective. It very much doesn't look like anything out there. I think it's going after a big category. It's very easy to understand. You can really imagine why, if launched properly with some useful things like that, this could be a very powerful narrative in the age of AI, et cetera. Obviously,
but why L1? Why not L2? Why are they bothering with an L1?
Honestly, I think I think that's probably more narrative than, well, they will say it's probably technology driving it. I don't know what the answer is there. From my perspective, I think it is actually just a ploy to get a higher valuation on this. Like, there is this sense of L1s being marked at a certain price, and if you can actually get to a level of super credibility there, then, and L2s are at a subset of that, and L3s are a subset of that, and so you're kind of looking at the market and being like, well, that's where the most value lives. Let me just go orient myself towards that. So I think that's kind of part of it. It feels like they're sort of taking advantage of a narrative here. And then when the CEO and co-founders come out and act like complete dicks on the internet, people are going to go, okay, maybe I don't want to.
They could do an L1.
Yeah, maybe they're perfect for an L1. I mean, and this is part of all these other L2s getting into fights on the internet this lasted a while. And to all of them, I'm just like, nobody fucking cares, man. Nobody cares. And you just look like an idiot. Like my take is that guy's not the story co-founder is not a trustworthy human being, and that I don't want to have that.
How come?
Just because how they show up on the internet. They show up on the internet in a way that is completely disregarding others. They show up on the internet in a way that is very egotistical. Like I think
did they go after anybody else or other people?
Parachain and Monad were the specific targets, and it's almost like a counter positioning thing, and doubling down quite a bit. It's a phenomenal social strategy. I get it, like it's working like crazy. But I wonder from a building perspective, is that actually what people want? And I think, especially if you're going off creative industries and stuff like that, like there's not a way to endear trust with people. So I think from a conceptually, narratively, I understand A16Z's approach. I think it's an interesting thing. It feels very much non-consensus compared to where, L2 would be the consensus. It makes a ton of sense. IP is a big category. It's just given me a ton of red flags and it's probably one of those things that if you meet the person in real life, he's just a very great human being and you're just passionate about the thing, etc. It just comes off in a way that's like, whoa. So to Monad founders, to the Mega ETH founders, to Story Protocol founders, you look like goofs the last week, and I'd just like to ask you to stop. Let's get back to maybe not kumbaya. I don't need kumbaya. I like competition, but it's just like I had to mute some of that stuff this week. I just don't care. I don't care.
Yeah. I had one of the co-founders, Jason, on my podcast, web3galaxybrain.com. The video's on my Twitter if anyone's interested. And we talked, it was actually recorded a couple weeks ago about the project. So it is interesting. I think I'm curious. I believe that the potential for the project and maybe why, it obviously aligns very well with Chris Dixon's Read Write Own thesis. Mm-hmm. It seems almost like it seems like the book was written about this project in parts. What will be interesting to see is if the founder SY, with his connections with Kakao, to whom he sold his prior startup, which was a sort of fan fiction, romance fiction app, if those connections are maybe lead the way towards a bunch of content deals that are difficult to imagine from an American context, that maybe make more sense. Obviously, K-pop, Korean soft power is enormously powerful in the pop culture sphere. So maybe those companies are more open to this kind of thing than the kind of Disney examples who are a little bit implausible.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that like if we shouldn't think that they're not going to go get traction and build things that show some early promise here. Like I think there's a pretty clear path there, and there's a lot of others. People are going after this space generally. We have a couple investments in, definitely not the same approach, but kind of in and around it. So there's clearly a need there. So I wouldn't. I think I'm mostly reacting to what I think is just a silly way to show up to try to advocate for what is essentially a culture, a country that you hope people will come join and build their lives on. From a token perspective or a network perspective, I think it's a worthwhile pursuit, and somebody's going to unlock that. Not sure it's this way, but somebody will do it. So wish them well, and I hope people just touch some grass this weekend and come back and actually let's just go build some cool shit.
Lead with positivity. Next up, we have Balaji's Network School announcement and the subsequent backlash to, well, more directed to the Network State project overall. If you don't know, the networkstate.com is Balaji's very well presented book. I really am very impressed by the way that he launched this, the one sentence, one paragraph, etc. Versions, audiobook on the site. It's very internet first book publication, just as regardless of the content. I think it's pretty impressive in that respect. They have a conference coming up at the end of September. Following Solana Breakpoint, the Network State Conference, second edition, I believe. And earlier this week, Balaji announced the Network School, ns.com, great URL. I wonder how much it cost, which is a 3-month sort of pop-up Network State happening subsequent to the Network State Conference on an island somewhere near Singapore. It's partnered with Bryan Johnson of Don't Die fame, who will be working on the food and exercise regime offered to people who sign up. It's a limited availability, exclusive thing. You have to apply, and they'll be accepting some number of people. That's right. It starts September 23rd. So kind of interesting to see Balaji.
We get sponsored by them? What are we doing here?
I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but it's interesting to see Balaji sort of putting his feet directly into the arena with building out some of this network stuff.
Bring up the critique.
So the critique that went around a little more recently was this poster on a poll, I assume in San Francisco, critiquing the Network State project as a crypto fascist, tech fascist project, which some people genuinely believe. A little bit difficult to suss out if the QR code linked website and project that poster represents are genuine, or maybe even some kind of psyop from the Network State people themselves.
Oh, I love that idea. Cheryl, it's in the sheet if you want to bring it up. But I think, yeah, I mean, Network State is clearly another narrative and a meme, and I think actually this the other sort of trend really is. Oh, yeah. This is good. I think these sort of like this trend of pop-up cities is super interesting. We're seeing those happen quite a bit, which I think is very much aligned with like the Network City sort of point of view, and so that's cool. But I think this is probably a sign of more things to come. You know, the faster technology is disrupting our normal lives, the more the appeal of Ludditism, I think, comes to bear, especially in a world where we have a lot of discrepancy between wealth, etc. So I get it.
I think the critique website, this tech-fascism.com, even if you completely disagree with the message, it has a lot of interesting links about news related to Network State projects that I hadn't seen yet. So a bunch of things worth clicking through and forming your own opinion about.
I mean, I think what's interesting is just how much demand there has been for that thing, opening up more space, etc. So wish them well. Give me one lightning round.
Yeah, we have only one, actually. It's Chris F. Wrote a thread about how retail really happens for crypto. And it's a extensive thread that is worth reading. But he basically argues that there's channel marketing and ZERP marketing. Channel marketing is marketing where you have a partner who is motivated by their own interests to promote your product or service, and ZERP marketing is sort of VC money thrown at marketing indiscriminately. The ZERP money has evaporated, and he tells a pretty good story about how the iPhone era adoption of apps, etc., that a lot of us feel maybe didn't understand from the perspective of the financial origins of it was actually channel marketing from people like AT&T, who were motivated to popularize higher price point iPhones, and ultimately did the advertising spend on behalf of Apple, which trickled down through Apple's choices to highlight apps to app developers. And so there were a lot of tailwinds financially that promoted the kind of transition towards the App Store and app success that maybe aren't there for crypto today. So we need to be careful, just like copy pasting things from the Web 2 ascendancy, which may not apply in this market.
I love it. Chris is just such an understated follow out there. I think, you know, he built Mint Mobile with Ryan Reynolds, which is a big exit. The guy knows what he's talking about from a blocking and tackling trench warfare of building consumer products perspective. And it's just an absurd digital asset degen. I mean, I probably would take some offense to that, but maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, big NFT guy. So this thread's 100% worth reading. I usually have to bookmark it and come back later because I need a clear brain to decipher what he's saying sometimes. But actually, I remember talking with him in Marfa, at one of the Art Blocks events, or at this bar, and he's talking. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, I got to pay real close. You're saying some incredible things here, but I got to have 110% attention here because, anyways,
high bandwidth.
Great thread.
Yeah,
love it.
Chris F. Smart. Must follow.
Chris F. Smart. We got to get him on here. I think we should get him on.
Yeah, we should.
Well, Nicholas, thanks for hanging out today, man. Excited
to
have you on. Excited for Josh gets to be dad today, which is
yes.
I was just thinking it's one of the most joyful things when we're on these calls and Josh gets, one of his kids comes running in the room. So excited. He's like, "Are you done yet? Like, let's go." I love it.
Future consumer crypto user.
Yeah, building for Gen Alpha. We're back here every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Do the rundown of the most interesting things happening in the consumer crypto space, and hopefully bring you a founder who's building at an edge and get some insight from. We got some really great guests lined up for the rest of, well, I guess next week is the rest of August, for the rest of the summer,
year,
the end of September. I mean, we do the year, yeah, as well. If you aren't, I think last week we opened up our Telegram chat a little bit. It's called Seed Club Curated. We drop 4 to 7 great links every day there. It's been crazy to see the percentage of that group that actually reads everything. It's north of 50% right now. It's a smaller group, but still north of 50%. So I think compared to what we get on Twitter, like percentage wise, Telegram's way to go. So you can, we'll make sure we tweet that out again. Love to have you come join. There's about 1,000 people in there. So keeping it nice and small and high signal. And of course we have the Seed Club newsletter as well that Cheryl, risks her mental health every week to create. And so you can subscribe there at seedclub.xyz. Until we see you next week, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you on Chain.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Internet Explorers.